The Guardian with a fantastic and unfortunate story about what is happening in Chicago and how we might have brought some of those CIA black sites that we were famous for during the Iraq War back home. Now, it's in Chicago, and we'll let The Guardian take it from there. The Chicago Police Department operates an off-the-books interrogation compound, rendering Americans unable to be found by family or attorneys while locked inside what lawyers say is the domestic equivalent of a CIA black site. Okay, so that sounds unbelievable. So let me give you details of what happens there, and you'll begin to understand what's going on at this crazy place. It's in Homan Square in Chicago, and here's what they do. They keep arrestees out of official booking databases. That should not happen under any circumstance. There's beatings by police resulting in head wounds. There's shackling for prolonged periods, and there's denying attorneys access to the secure facility. If someone asks for an attorney, you give them an attorney. That's the law in the United States of the land. Law of the land. Apparently not in Chicago. And it gets worse. Again, quoting The Guardian here. At least one man was found unresponsive in Homan Square interview room and later pronounced dead. That's what happens when you have no accountability. I'm going to get back to that, gentlemen, because that story is unreal. So now, first, let me tell you about Brian Jacob Church. He is one of what is being called a NATO 3. There are 3 guys who were arrested at a NATO protest. Now, instead of taking the guys, if you're really worried that they were a significant concern, and booking them and going through the process, they take them to this black site instead. And Church explains what happened next. He says, it brings to mind the interrogation facilities they use in the Middle East. The CIA calls them black sites. It's a domestic black site. When you go in, no one knows what's happened to you. So in his case, he was shackled for 17 straight hours. He had written his lawyer's info on his arm because he knew he was going to a protest and that he might get arrested. He asked specifically for a lawyer. He was denied. That is wildly illegal and unconstitutional. They didn't read him his Miranda warnings, also unconstitutional, and they just flat out denied him an attorney while they kept him there and kept interrogating him. This is what some parts of our country have turned into. Okay, more from The Guardian. Unlike a precinct, no one taken to Homan Square is said to be booked. Witnesses, suspects, or other Chicagoans who end up inside do not appear to have a public searchable record entered into a database indicating where they are, as happens when someone is booked at a precinct. Lawyers and relatives insist there is no way of finding their whereabouts. Those lawyers who have attempted to gain access to Homan Square are most often turned away, even as their clients remain in custody inside. They're making guys disappear. What the hell is this? I mean, this is beyond outrageous. Now, this dates back apparently a long time, and if you thought it was just about terrorism, of course not. Now they're bringing people involved with drugs into the black site and gang-related activities. And that is such a broad category that, well, now regular course of business is done with. The Constitution, who cares? The cops don't like somebody in Chicago, and they make them disappear for a while. Now, normally it's for a while, and they keep them shackled up and violate all their rights, and at some point bring them back into the official system, unless they've died. So let me tell you about that case. On February 2nd of 2013, John Hubbard was taken to Homan Square. Hubbard never walked out. The Chicago Tribune reported that the 44-year-old was found unresponsive inside an interview room and pronounced dead. The Cook County Medical could not locate any record for The Guardian indicating a cause of Hubbard's death. It remains unclear why Hubbard was ever in police custody. So this is what our police do in this country now? They take you in, they make you disappear. They don't tell anybody why they took you in. You die. They don't tell anybody why you died or how you died, and then they just wrap it up. That's it. We're done with it. Who cares? He died at a black site. What difference does it make? Does this sound like America to you? And this is not a partisan issue. I mean, Democrats have been running Chicago for a long time, and, you know, Republicans are the ones who started the torture and interrogation program in Guantanamo Bay. In fact, there's a guy who worked at this place and at Guantanamo. You see how we're beginning to intermingle everything. There's military equipment all over this facility. They have these giant things that basically look like tanks inside there. We've militarized the whole country, and this is an outward symbol of it. And in reality, something very, very important that needs to be addressed immediately as a practical matter as well. And Tracy Siska makes a great point about this. She is a criminologist and a civil rights activist with the Chicago Justice Project. She said, the real danger in allowing practices like Guantanamo or Abu Ghraib is the fact that they always creep into other aspects. They creep into domestic law enforcement, either with weaponry like the militarization of police or interrogation practices. That's how we ended up with a black site in Chicago. Now, remember what they said to us when we found out about the CIA black sites all over the world, that we had reopened some of the former Soviet gulags. They said, no, that's okay. It's just for foreigners and it's outside the country. Now, all of a sudden, it's inside the country. And of course, they said, oh, these extraordinary actions, don't worry. It's only in the case of terrorism. Now, it's in the case of many different things. Oh, they were a gang. I don't know. Is that close to terror? What's in a gang? Who's in a gang? How does that count? Who cares? It doesn't really matter because you don't have to explain anything in a black site. It's not in the record. Somebody dies there and we don't even explain that. What difference does it make? We don't even need an excuse. This is how wild law breaking begins. This is how the destruction of the Constitution begins. And it's not something that will lead to something bad. This is bad. It's already come home. Our chickens have come home to roost, and they're in Chicago right now.